However, the reality was that the terrifying beam of light, which had carried an appalling might just a moment ago, saw its might inexplicably drain away in an instant. By the time it struck the top of the head of the three-headed chimera, it was left with only the might of a third-rank peak. It did not cause any fatal damage to it. It's the origin rules of the soul spirit floating land that are actively suppressing it. The attack of the clan elder is strong, but it's still not capable of remotely countering the core rules of the floating land origin outside of the floating land. An insightful clan member took the initiative to explain in the channel, further dampening the spirits of the Song family members. Though everyone understood that no matter what, the Soul Spirit clan couldn't turn the tide and the floating land would inevitably fall under the family's control, the current unfavorable situation was a harsh reality. The half-step fourth-rank three-headed chimera was weaving through the group of third-rank cruisers like a dragon, surrounded by a mysterious force field that made it impossible for the third-rank torch ship captains to disengage, forcing them to passively endure the attacks of the chimera. Below, the thorned flying dragons, which initially held an absolute advantage, were now being besieged by over 100 two-headed chimeras, and the situation was equally dire. If this continued, casualties were inevitable. Outside the Vault of Heaven, the flagships of the two fourth-rank clan elders from the first direct lineage had somehow transformed into mecha forms. The mech giants, towering over 3,000 meters tall, were fiercely attacking the floating land shield, which was filled with cracks, eager to descend into the interior of the floating land. But clearly, even with their urgency, it wasn't something that could be achieved in a short time. At that moment, an ancient voice emanated from within the mech giant holding a white longsword. "Yan boy, take action now, just hold off this beast." This ancient voice echoed from above throughout the floating land, and upon hearing it, the faces of the frustrated third-rank torch ship captains simultaneously lit up with joy. Song Yan. He's here too. In the midst of their surprise, intense spatial fluctuations emanated from the center of the battlefield. Under the gaze of thousands, a cruiser, 1,000 meters long and wrapped in a pale yellow warship armor, silently appeared next to the three-headed chimera, with a wingspan exceeding 2,500 meters. This warship looked no different from a regular cruiser and showed no sign of anything special. However, with its appearance, it caused a huge stir among the members of the Song family, calming their previous panic completely, as if they had all taken a comforting pill. Inside the furious lion cruiser, Song Mingsong's eyes, as big as copper bells, were intently fixed on the pale yellow cruiser displayed on the projection screen. Even with his pride, he felt humbled in the presence of this seemingly ordinary cruiser. The newcomer was none other than the sixth in the current sequence of the Dingai Song family. Song Yan. This member of the ancestral vein was born with purple fire and an innate gift that was barely considered excellent. When his flagship had first advanced to second rank, his performance had always been by the book. Until the third year after advancing to second rank. It was said that during an exploration in the alien star domain, he had a serendipitous encounter that changed everything. In less than 10 years, he leapt into the third rank, but this was just one insignificant line in his career. Taking on 5 or 10 enemies at once was more typical of the achievements of this sixth sequence. And one crucial point, this individual had repeatedly withstood direct attacks from fourth-rank beings on his own. Emphasis on direct attacks, not any form of kiting or drawn-out battle. Furthermore, since becoming the family's sixth sequence 10 years ago, he had not openly made a move for a long time. If he could withstand the direct attacks of fourth-rank lifeforms in the Starry Sea 10 years ago, one could only imagine the current state of his flagship. Let alone a half-step fourth-rank three-headed chimera, even if the opponent formally stepped into that realm, they likely wouldn't be able to trouble the sixth sequence of the clan for a while. Song Yan's flagship was named Xuanjia, and it had been over 15 years since he was promoted to third rank. No one knew the extent of Xuanjia's current combat power. However, the fact that Xuanjia had teleported next to the side of the three-headed chimera without any hesitation suggested that this so-called half-step fourth-rank creature was not much of a threat to it. Indeed, As a layer of yellowish-brown rock suddenly covered the surface of Xuanzhou, the Chimera's serpentine tail, which seemed like a death-bringing specter to other third-rank torch captains, could only leave trails of sparks splashing across the hull of Xuanzhou. Witnessing this, the surrounding third-rank torch captains realized that the quality of the warship armor of this sixth sequence family member was at least orange quality or higher, and its enhancement level must have exceeded the fourth rank, even most likely reaching the peak of the fourth rank. As everyone marveled, the next action of Xuanzhou was even more astonishing. Clang clang. After a series of intense metallic friction sounds, in the next second, the cannon at the bow of Xuanzhou abruptly transformed into a silver-gleaming battering ram. Inside Xuanzhou, a burly man focused his thoughts and activated the crushing impact feature of the orange quality, Mystic Silver Ram component. Immediately afterward, a massive amount of silver light began to gather at the bow of Xuanzhou, and within a short duration, the Mystic Silver Ram was entirely enveloped by the sharp silver light. The next second, Xuanzhou, carrying fearsome might, charged with an unrivaled momentum straight at the three-headed chimera. Ahead, sensing the threat to its life, the half-step fourth-rank chimera flapped its wings. A tornado storm condensed behind its dual wings, while a green mysterious flow circulated around its entire body. With the support of these two, the three-headed chimera was about to flee with its wings spread, but the burly man inside Xuanzhou let out a cold snort. Thinking of running now? Too late. As soon as he finished speaking, he activated another orange component on Xuanzhou, Earthstone Domain Monument. Swish, swish, swish. Earthy yellow stones rapidly condensed around the chimera, and on these stones, the same mysterious power circulated, clashing against the aqua-colored energy around the chimera, resulting in continuous tug-of-war. During this stalemate, the chimera felt its movements becoming more and more cumbersome, the constant condensation of stones on its body making its flesh stiffen. Boom! Losing its original agility, the chimera could not avoid Xuanzhou's relentless charge, the razor-sharp Mystic Silver Ram striking forcefully against its chest. Roar, roar, roar. All three heads of the chimera wailed in succession as the formidable frontal assault from Xuanzhou caved in a massive pit hundreds of meters into its chest, while the sharp and domineering silver energy constantly eroded its internal flesh and blood. And that was not the end. Following the devastating collision, the Mystic Silver Ram of Xuanzhou unexpectedly triggered a secondary impact feature. As a result, the already heavily injured chimera was struck grievously. A several hundred-meter wound was torn open in its chest, massive amounts of blood gushing out, raining blood onto the forest below. Roar! In its final throes, all three heads of the chimera opened their mouths simultaneously, and 3 kilometers-long energy balls of different colors converged inside before they spewed out towards Xuanzhou, which was not far away. The surrounding members of the Song family who were torch ship captains were taken aback, wanting to remind Song Yan to dodge. The chimera, after all, had half-stepped into the fourth rank and was bolstered by a soul spirit floating land with a hint of fourth-rank original source, making these kilometer-wide energy balls as strong, if not stronger, than its over 3-kilometer-long serpentine tail. But it was too late. The energy balls in the mouths of the chimera were almost instantaneously formed, and then they were spat out at high speed, giving them no chance to react or even warn anyone. However, what unfolded next quickly reassured the Song clan members. Compared to the warship armor that was of at least orange quality and reinforced to the fourth rank, the energy shield on the surface of Xuanzhou was not the slightest bit inferior. Against the life-burning retaliation of the three-headed chimera, the energy shield dimmed only slightly. After that strike, the half-step fourth-rank chimera had no more ability to counterattack and could only passively take the successive attacks from Xuanzhou, quickly falling under the barrage of Xuanzhou's ship cannons. Without even needing the personal intervention of the 2 clan elders from the first direct lineage who were in the sky, this crisis that had been extremely urgent a moment ago was casually resolved by this 6th sequence of the Song family. Song Kai was naturally unaware of everything that had happened above the soul spirit floating land, but he had a certain conjecture about the overall situation, especially since he had also heard that ancient voice that echoed through the floating land. At that time, he was piloting the Kang Chong, rapidly advancing through the central Great Swamp in the northern region. Indeed, Kang Chong no longer moved cautiously as it had half a month before, but was instead rapidly traversing the bottom of the swamp. Having received news of the familial great battle half a month ago and knowing that there wasn't much time left, he ignored all previous apprehensions and, at the limit speed that the semi-automatic shipboard intelligence could process information, explored with full force like a dragon through the central Great Swamp. The result of this was a significant increase in Kang Chong's scanning speed. In just half a month, it had covered over 3/4 of the entire central Great Swamp, with less than a quarter of the area left unexplored. Moreover, in this half-month, he had gained a considerable number of qualified deep-water clam pearls. Now, with the 300-year pearls he had collected, he had reached a total of 30. There were also 10 pearls of the 500-year variety, 4 pearls of 700 years, and 2 pearls of 900 years. The only regret was that he still hadn't found any deep-water clam pearls that were over 1,000 years old. About this, Song Kai had some speculation. It was very likely that some people from the Song family clan had beaten him to it, taking those 1,000-year pearls away with special warship components after having roamed the northern region seabed. Otherwise, with so many swamps in the northern region, so vast and extensive, it would be unreasonable not to find even a single 1,000-year pearl. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Ahead, the water currents were violently split apart, and numerous bubbles surfaced before a massive black serpentine tail swooped across horizontally. Indeed, Kang Chong was currently in the midst of battle, facing the consequences of recklessly traversing the bottom of the central Great Swamp, the inevitable confrontations with third-rank Blackwater Zon snakes. Fortunately, the number of third-rank Blackwater Zon snakes lurking in the northern region's swamps had greatly decreased, thanks to the conscription efforts of the Soul Spirit clan. Otherwise, with all the commotion, the central Great Swamp would have long been in an uproar. Without taking control of Kang Chong to avoid it, Song Kai, who had already fought many times over the past half-month, knew all too well that an ordinary third-rank peak Blackwater Zon snake could not inflict much damage on the neutron star core armor of red quality. After a battle, at most, the armor would sustain 5% or 6% damage, and it would take less than half a minute to return to its peak condition. At the bow, the pure Yang sword beam cannon roared again. The next moment, the Blackwater Zon snake, which had already been struck by 2 cannon shots, was dead for good. Its kilometer-long body sank into the tens of thousands of meters deep water, never to make a sound again. Watching the body slowly sink, Song Kai couldn't help but feel it was a pity. During the past half-month, Kang Chong had killed no fewer than 8 third-rank Blackwater Zon snakes, but other than providing a few strands of second-rank floating land origin, these snake corpses had no other value. It was difficult for them to condense energy crystals within their bodies, nor did they have insect rays-like delicacies. Aside from being used to feed some carnivorous captive creatures, it seemed they really had no other use. Given the current situation of Kang Chong, it was obviously not feasible to tow these corpses directly to the Western region's merit hall for merit exchange. Therefore, Song Kai could only watch helplessly as these snake corpses sank to the bottom of the water. This inevitably made him feel regretful. Third-rank creatures were not considered low-rank beings in the shattered starry sea. Generally, they needed at least several decades or even 100 years to grow to such a level. Compared to this growth time, the yield of just a strand of second-rank floating land origin seemed inequitable, leaving Song Kai feeling somewhat dissatisfied. But he was well aware that this was reality. The starry sea was vast, and the variety of different alien races was endless. Apart from those with special innate gifts, the value of most alien races was simple. Other than being enslaved as cannon fodder, they would be used to feed other potentially more viable creatures, which was not surprising. After dealing with the Blackwater Zon snake, Kang Chong continued to advance forward. Minutes later, deep within tens of thousands of meters at the bottom of the swamp, Song Chi's expression suddenly lit up with immense joy inside the main control room of Kongchong. Just a moment ago, his ears had picked up a prompt from the semi-automatic onboard intelligence. 10,000 meters ahead, life energy fluctuations resembling deep water clams have been detected, estimated to be over 3,000 years old. No wonder Song Kai was thrilled. A 3,000-year-old deep water clam had a not insignificant chance of nurturing pearls over 1,000 years old. However, amidst his delight, Song Kai was also puzzled. According to the Silver 3 generation Superwave Magical Energy Detection Radar, the region where the clam was active was only a few dozen meters deep within the mud layer. Logically, such a depth was entirely within reach of whatever unknown party had beaten him to this part of the seabed. Why didn't they take this clam as well? Song Kai pondered rapidly, but he didn't have to think too long as a slight tremble was felt from the ancestral aperture between his eyebrows. The mission ends here. All clan members are advised to leave the Soul Spirit floating land within the next 3 days. Were these 3 top priority messages issued by the 1st Direct Lineages United Front Department as an evacuation notice? This message also completely affirmed the inklings in the depths of Song Chi's mind. He didn't ponder any longer. The engines of Kongchong restarted, and its powerful thrust propelled the warship forward. Although the scorching flames of its tail were covered by the void membrane, the steaming bubbles created in the water due to the high temperature were clearly visible, leaving a long trail of bubbles behind Kongchong. Seconds later, Kongchong reached the location indicated by the Magic Energy Detection Radar, where the 3,000-year-old deep water clam was found. Nearby a massive coral reef, the clam was nestled among the sand and mud. As Kongchong drew closer, a traction beam shot out from the warship, shining directly on the upper layer of the mud where the deep water clam resided. As time passed, the mud layer was gradually cleared, and just as they were about to reach the 3,000-year-old clam, Song Chi's eyes brimmed with deep anticipation. Whoosh! Suddenly, a strong current slapped the side of the ship, coming from the attacker, a giant serpent tail over a kilometer long that had appeared out of nowhere. The scale armor on this serpent tail differed from the ordinary third-rank Blackwater Zon snakes. It showed an eerie pale red color, and one could even see dense and sharp barbs between these pale red scales, giving an unsettling feel. With just one glance, one could imagine its terrifying lethality. However, this sudden change did not cause much panic in Song Kai. He remained calm, as if he had anticipated this strike's arrival. Indeed, he had. Earlier, when he had detected the 3,000-year-old deep-sea clam, he had become alert. After all, if it wasn't for some reason, the clansman who had acted before him, known for the sweep-everything style, would certainly not have left behind this 3,000-year-old deep-sea clam. A half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake. Feeling the energy radiating from the pale red serpent tail on the side, Song Kai knew the opponent's strength. However, this time, deviating from his usual style, his eyes were firm, and his face showed an eager-to-try expression. In the past, he had been extremely averse to close combat with the enemy, due to the fact that Kongchong's warship armor had always been a weak point. But now, having switched to the red-quality, neutron star core armor, this weak point had transformed, becoming Kongchong's strongest feature. Therefore, Song Kai wanted to personally witness Kongchong's true combat power. Besides, they were now deep under the central Great Swamp, tens of thousands of meters underwater. Even if they caused a great disturbance, it would be difficult for it to reach the outside world in a short time, so he could fight this suspected half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake with peace of mind. Since he had made up his mind, Song Kai naturally did not hesitate. His mind quickly concentrated, and he controlled Kongchong to adjust its position and dodge the red serpent tail whipping toward them. Boom! In the midst of the violent trembling and roaring, the ship's AI issued a mechanical warning. Warning: warship armor damaged by 7%, please repair as soon as possible. Ding! The ship is damaged, neutron star core pulse feature activated, repairing warship armor. Although Song Kai tried his best to control it, the water pressure at this depth was not for show, and the swiftness of the serpent-tail's strike was also astonishing. Kang Chong ultimately failed to evade the attack. However, on the flip side, the defensive power of the Neutron Star Core armor was indeed astonishing. Even when facing a direct attack from a half-step 4th rank being, it was more than capable of withstanding. Moreover, this was just a level 30. Should it continue to be enhanced, its defensive power would only become even more formidable. At the bow of the ship, the fully charged Pyongyang sword beam cannon burst forth, leaving a long gash on the pale red serpent tail, a kilometer-long shadow of the sword beam flashing past. Although the gash ran long, it did not penetrate deeply and failed to inflict substantial damage on the half-step 4th rank Blackwater Zon snake. At this, Song Kai frowned. This was a LV-39 enhanced Pyongyang sword beam cannon, after all. Yet this also revealed the terrifying defense of the pale red scale armor that had yet to fully reveal itself on the Blackwater Zon snake. Of course, this included the law enhancement from the Soul Spirit floating land. Otherwise, even a half-step 4th rank being could not possibly be this formidable, especially since Blackwater Zon snakes were not known for their defensive strength. Even though he could rationalize the cause, Song Kai still felt somewhat displeased. This brings us to another shortcoming of the Pyongyang sword beam cannon. It did not have the armor break attribute, and thus, when facing creatures with strong defenses, its damage would be greatly reduced. This was a fundamental flaw. He had thought about this problem carefully. As long as he could come up with solutions for the secondary cannon, compensation could still be made. This was why he had been paying close attention to armor break type secondary cannons recently. However, such cannons were rare to begin with, and the demand among the clans was high. It was very difficult to get one from within the family, so he had to slowly search through the Zutian ruins market. As he pondered, a token shining with silvery light flew out from between Song Chi's brows, which he then grasped in his palm. It was a ruins market walking rank. Now that the ruins market had reached level 25, Song Kai had 4 more ruins market walking ranks, in addition to the first one of which he carried with him. With the activation of the law enhancement from the ruins market walking rank, strands of mysterious power of laws entered the body of Kang Chong, amplifying it in all aspects. Now, looking at the Pyongyang sword beam cannon, it was able to inflict more severe damage on the pale red body of the serpent, each attack cutting dozens of meters long, nearly 3 meters deep wounds in the pale red scale armor. Compared to the enormous size of the half-step 4th rank Blackwater Zon snake, these wounds could barely be considered more than slightly worse than a tickle, but the number of attacks was relentless. Minutes later, the wounds crisscrossed over each other. The blood that spilled out turned the pale red scales into a vivid scarlet, while the surrounding waters were covered in a hue of blood. Hiss! It seemed that the Blackwater Zon snake was becoming impatient with Kang Chong's slippery attack tactics, and a sharp hissing noise echoed through tens of thousands of meters underwater. Mysterious sound waves propagated in a bizarre fashion under the depths. In Kang Chong, Song Kai, who had not let his guard down, had not expected such a turn of events. He hadn't even entered the Zutian ruins market before he was staggered by the sharp hissing noise. The blue seed of torch within Song Chi's ancestral aperture at the space between his eyebrows was violently flickering, a sign of being assaulted spiritually. It was at this moment that the abnormal status purifier component uploaded onto the Kang Chong finally took effect. Accompanied by the cleansing radiance of the 3rd rank peak, Song Kai snapped out of his daze and instinctively looked ahead, his pupils then sharply contracting. Within the projection screen, a serpent's maw of terrifying extent had completely covered the entire screen, with sharp fangs over dozens of meters in length flashing a chilling cold light. It was indeed that half-step 4th rank Blackwater Zon snake that had taken advantage of the interval in which Song Kai had been stunned earlier, rapidly hurtling towards the Kang Chong. By its appearance, it seemed as though it wanted to rend the Kang Chong into 2 with a single bite. In response, after an initial fright, Song Kai quickly returned to calmness, and even his composed demeanor was tinged with traces of a sneer. Inside the projection screen, the light was quickly dimming, as the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake was closing its jaws. Neutron star fission. Locked in the final moment before its jaws snapped shut, Song Kai activated the neutron star fission feature of the neutron star core armor component. ZZZZT. 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 The 120 meters long Kang Chong was enveloped by an intense and scorching black light, instantly transforming from a warship form into a miniature neutron star a few dozens of meters in diameter. Hiss, hiss, hiss. At the moment of the Kang Chong's transformation, a terrifying heat exceeding several million degrees Celsius erupted inside the mouth of the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake. Although it was fleeting, the frightful temperature instantly melted the snake's head. Externally, the surrounding swamp water was also boiling intensively. Just kidding, even a true fourth-rank creature, if it allowed a neutron star to explode within its body, would directly kick the bucket, let alone a half-step fourth rank. As the Kang Chong sent out an alert of having received a strand of second-rank floating land origin, Song Kai himself was somewhat confused. Truth be told, as for the state of the Kang Chong transforming into a miniature neutron star, Song Kai, the captain, had made an incorrect judgment. After all, this was the first time activating this feature. Before this, he always believed it was a purely defensive feature. Now after this practical test, he discovered that the moment the transformation completed, the horrific heat emitted from the surface of the miniature neutron star could also be considered an extremely astonishing method of attack. Even to call it a special trump card would not be an exaggeration. After deactivating the neutron star fission feature and reverting back to the original warship form, the Kang Chong shot out from the misshapen head of the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake. Only then could he clearly see the full extent of the terrifying giant serpent. Its body, spanning over 2,500 meters in length, was entirely wrapped in pale red scale armor, and coupled with its terrifying fangs, it truly resembled a deep-water behemoth. However, unfortunately for it, it encountered the Kang Chong, and moreover, the Kang Chong that was already equipped with the neutron star core armor. Its mistaken decision to try to resolve the battle with terrifyingly sharp fangs led to its ultimate demise with two consecutive wrong choices. Song Kai felt a bit emotional, as the mixed hollow extreme yang sword intent divine light he had deeply hoped for did not come into play at all. The battle that he thought would be tough and hard fought ended in such a dramatic fashion, a result that had never occurred to him. Of course, after a brief moment of sentimentality, what replaced it was a strong sense of elation. Originally, he thought the terrifying defense of the neutron star core armor component and its features that autonomously restored warship armor and energy shields were already impressive enough. Yet, he hadn't anticipated now having an additional, invisible strong method of attack, which certainly counted as a huge surprise. Pressing down the joy in his heart, Song Kai quickly refocused his thoughts. The ruckus of the fight with the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake was not small, and was very likely to draw the attention of the two clan elders above. He needed to leave quickly. Coming to rest directly above the 3,000-year-old deep water clam, a traction beam was shot out from the Kang Chong, and soon, the nearly meter-large deep water clam was easily hauled out. This clam did not disappoint him as it had nurtured a fist-sized deep water clam pearl, aged at least 1,500 years, adding joy upon joy. After sorting this out, Song Kai shifted his gaze to the side, at the carcass of the Blackwater Zon snake over 2,500 meters long, wishing to handle it briefly and cover up the traces of combat. However, upon glancing at the radar screen, he realized there was no more time left. Above the vault of heaven, as the three chimeras and the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake died, the origin core of the soul spirit floating land weakened once more, the floating land shield above no longer able to hold back the two clan elders. Considering this, Song Kai could no longer concern himself with too much, no longer paying attention to the corpse of the pale red Blackwater Zon snake as he steered the Kang Chong upwards. Outside the vault of heaven of the soul spirit floating land, two mech giants continued to bombard the rapidly disintegrating floating land shield below with the power of laws. At a certain moment, the floating land shield finally could no longer sustain itself and shattered with a loud crash. Seeing this, the two elders of the first direct lineage didn't hesitate and flew straight downwards. What puzzled the various members of the Song family was that the two elders did not head to the eastern region first but went to the central Great Swamp in the northern region. Just a short while ago, they had sensed the presence of a second half-step fourth-rank creature within this swamp. In the deepest part of the central Great Swamp, two mech giants stood at the bottom of the water, and in front of them was the body of a Blackwater Zon snake that exceeded 2,500 meters in length. At this moment, one of the two, Song Xuanfeng, spoke up. Looking at this wound, it should be just a third-rank main cannon, and to inflict injury on a half-step fourth-rank lifeform blessed by the rules of floating land origin, it's highly likely that it's a main cannon component of orange quality. And these head wounds, what kind of temperature must be reached to cause this extent? Bizarre indeed, very strange. Hearing his words, the other clan elder beside him nodded lightly and then added, "It's just unknown which little guy caused such a big commotion, and they are still hiding it, quite interesting." Upon hearing this, Song Xuanfeng seemed to remember something and laughed. "Back in the day, weren't you just like that? Acting like a sheep while being a tiger all along, going out with me and still pretending to be timid. Even now, thinking about it still annoys me." With that, both of the Song family clan elders who had lived over 800 years all chuckled. Ah well, let them be. It won't be long before all these youngsters have to show themselves, they won't be able to hide even if they want to. The great decisive battle arrived quickly and ended just as promptly, with the direct intervention of the family's sixth sequence and the two clan elders. The remnant Soul Spirit clan members of the Soul Spirit floating land were quickly suppressed, marking the official end of the mission. Mount Hun Spear Range, Southern Sector 14 Defensive Line, Mountain Stronghold. A day had passed since Song Qi's return. During this day, Song Yu tirelessly recounted the grandeur of the previous day's battle, and just how formidable Song Yan of the sixth sequence was. What he did not know was that his fourth brother, who was next to him, had also killed a half-step fourth-rank level creature head on the day before. Of course, Song Kai was very clear in his heart that he still had some gaps compared to that member of the sixth sequence. After all, he could kill the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake so easily mainly because the creature had swallowed Kang Chong. Otherwise, a tough fight would have been inevitable. As for Song Yan, he seemed to be at complete ease, as if leisurely strolling through a garden. Half listening to Song Yu and noticing his grandfather, grandmother, and second uncle arriving, Song Kai immediately got up. He first greeted his grandfather and second uncle in a soft voice, then quickly walked to his grandmother's side. Congratulations on Grandma's flagship's successful advancement to third rank. Indeed, Grandma Bai Shuken's flagship, Sky Zither, had officially advanced to third rank a few months ago, also transforming into a cruiser. However, Song Kai had rarely operated with his family members recently, and this was the first time he saw Grandma after her advancement. It was said that with the help of Grandpa, Grandma had personally killed over 100 third-rank creatures of the Soul Spirit clan in the past year, including Blackwater Zon snakes and chimeras. She had also killed many alien races during the exploration of the alien star domain. Add in the already gathered resources for advancement and the 6,000-year-old Moondrop tree sap, the advancement of Sky Zither was not surprising at all. Bai Shuken, with a gentle smile on her face, patted Song Kai lightly. Even with her indifferent nature, she seemed especially happy after advancing to third rank. After all, she only needed to improve her guidance technique to see her lifespan reach 600 years. Grandfather Song Mingsong also wore a smiling face. He cleared his throat lightly. "All right, if everything is packed, let's set off. It's been over a year. I wonder how things are at home." Hearing this, the five of them nodded simultaneously. Soon, 5 torch warships rose from the 14th peak of the south, heading towards the horizon of Soul Spirit floating land. There were many like them. One torch warship after another burst out from the floating land, steering towards the temporary space station in the starry sky. There, a substantial number of Clan's transfer warships were waiting. As soon as they filled up, they would immediately set off for the return. Because the first direct lineage had already made arrangements, there were more than 30 transfer warships docked at the space combat platform. For this reason, even though the number of Clan members leaving from Soul Spirit floating land was in the thousands, there was no crowding or delay. The group quickly boarded a transfer warship, and after waiting for about half an hour for it to reach full capacity, they soon began their return journey. At the Vault of Heaven, not far from Dragonspine's Sacred Mountain, with the passage of intense spatial fluctuations, transfer warships appeared one after another. White Jade Square, with the end of the expedition task, the square that had been piled up with supplies was now reverted to its former spaciousness. Just after descending from one of the transfer warships, Song-Chi's gaze was drawn to a corner on the right side of the square. There, Blackwater Zon snakes and chimera corpses, hundreds of meters in volume, some exceeding 100 meters, were piled high. After inquiring, Song Kai understood that these were transported back by the family's transfer warships, which were equipped with space expansion components, from Soul Spirit floating land. They were meant to be sent to Flying Dragon floating land to feed the thorned flying dragons there. The flesh of these second-rank and third-rank Blackwater Zon snakes and chimeras contained abundant blood-chi energy capable of promoting the growth and even advancement of the thorned flying dragons on Flying Dragon floating land. Given the thorned flying dragon's enormous appetites, these supplies of flesh were enough to last them for some time, a win-win situation. However, Song Kai recognized the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake he had killed yesterday among the corpses. The moment he saw the snake's body, his eyes twitched, and he also realized that his speculation from the day before was correct. The fluctuations from the battle with the half-step fourth-rank Blackwater Zon snake had not escaped the monitoring of the family. Although he left ahead of the others, the snake's corporeal body was brought back by the family. Dad, Mom, second brother. As his thoughts whirled, a familiar voice came from the side. It was his father, Song Chao. In the family communication channel of Ring Dragonspine Continent, Song Shan, Song Chao, and others had learned of the mission's conclusion, so Song Chao had arrived the day before. Unable to use spectral energy within their bodies for a day after returning by transfer warship, Song Kai and his companions naturally needed someone to pick them up, otherwise, they would be forced to wait in the square for an entire day. How have things been within the Pulse recently? Just aboard Shinkong, as his body was once again covered by the Torch Warship Boarding Certificate component, Song Mingsong asked. While activating the warship engines, Song Chao described the various changes within the Pulse and the family over the past year in a broken narrative. Little Chi has successfully advanced to second rank. This first piece of news brought simultaneous smiles to Song Mingsong and the others' faces. Song Chi's advancement to second rank, along with Bai Shuken's advancement to third rank, represented an overall increase in their lineage's strength. A welcome piece of good news. However, after this first piece of news, what followed was mostly trivial matters. Except for the last one. By the way, Dad, Aunt Shirong sent a message a month ago. She wants to discuss the next course of action with you as soon as you return, Song Chao said. Hearing this news, Song Mingsong's expression grew serious. What Song Chao was referring to was the matter from the big celebration of Bai Shuken's 200th birthday more than a year ago. At that time, Bai Shuken's elder sister from the Bai family in the imperial capital Star Domain, Bai Shirong, had approached the Song family with a proposal to explore a third-rank floating land together. According to the information revealed by her at that time, the floating land was named Copper Mountain Continent, a non-living floating land abundant in various metal ores such as native copper, zircon, and magnetite. Furthermore, there was a small titanium crystal vein on this floating land, apparently with reserves of more than 50,000 crystals of considerable value. Of course, The aforementioned are just the resource points. Copper Mountain floating land also concealed great dangers. If it weren't so, why would Bai Sharong have shared the information about this floating land with the Song family? A titanium crystal vein with reserves exceeding 50,000 is an extremely valuable resource. Once the Song family gets involved, they are bound to secure at least 20,000 titanium crystals. What made the Bai family from Bai Sharong's lineage so generous? Was it merely because of the relationship with Bai Shuken? Obviously not. According to Bai Sharong, although Copper Mountain floating land was a resource-based floating land rather than a living floating land, a very special stellar space creature lay dormant deep within the floating land. A golden armored giant beast of 4th rank level. When he first heard about the golden armored giant beast from his grandfather, Song Kai was quite shocked. Not for any other reason, but because the golden armored giant beast is notably famous among various stellar space creatures, particularly known for its defense and attack capabilities. The golden armored giant beast, belonging to the branch of starry sky behemoths among stellar space creatures, is one of the top 10 beings with metal attribute capabilities. In the Song family's genetic bloodline chart, this creature was classified as 5th tier, a being stronger than the thorned flying dragon. Creature name: Golden Armored Giant Beast. Species: Golden Armored Giant Beast. Genetic bloodline rating: 84. Natural ability: Metal attribute affinity, Zheng metal scales, golden armor domain, splitting gold spear. The mere 4 major innate abilities were enough to showcase its terror. Of course, if it truly were a fully mature 4th rank golden armor giant beast, Song Mingsong wouldn't be foolish enough to be swayed by the Bai family to lightly set his sights on such a formidable existent. Mainly, Bai Sharong explicitly stated that the golden armor giant beast was in a severely injured state, its strength far from its peak of 110%. Now, it is slumbering within a large copper ore deposit in the Copper Mountain continent, drawing on the rich metallic energy within the copper ore to recover from its injuries. If it weren't for this, Song Mingsong would never have agreed to it. After all, the lineage of Bai Sharong has already declined within the Bai family and does not have a 4th rank torch ship captain. The risk was not small. Okay, let's go back first. Your mother has also been promoted to 3rd rank. Later on, the 3rd rank floating land origin eruption eye at the garrison can be suppressed by the Sky Zither. With Elder Brothers Mountain also present, the risk in this operation will be much reduced. Hearing this, Song Chao's eyes lit up with joy. If Bai Shuken could complete her promotion during this period, then the subsequent situation would become much better. Above Green Moon Lake, Qingkong broke through the clouds and slowly descended onto Green Moon Island. With the return of the 5 members who participated in the expedition, the whole Green Moon Manor suddenly became lively, especially after receiving the news that no one was injured. In the underground secret chamber, a large gathering of the family was convening. Click. From the side corner, a door to an inner stone chamber opened, and Song Mingsong and Song Shan stepped out. Previously, in order to transplant the divine tempering fruit tree into the dragon blood mystic realm, the entrance to that secret realm in the family was cancelled by Song Mingsong. Only now had it been reopened. Approaching the crowd, Song Mingsong said, "This divine tempering fruit tree was found by Little Kai. Therefore, when the 8 divine tempering fruits on the tree mature, he will get half first. In the future, with each new round of maturity, he must also be given one for free." Having said this, Song Mingsong looked around the crowd, seeing only smiles on everyone's faces, happy about the prospect of high-level divine soul-type resources like the divine tempering fruit being produced continuously in the lineage, and no one expressing any objections. He then turned the conversation to the matter of Copper Mountain Continent. Regarding the operation in the Copper Mountain Continent, with this promotion of the Sky Zither, there is the suppression of the origin eruption eye. In addition, with Elder Brothers guidance technique also promoted to 3rd rank with the help of body tempering paste, we can send more people over this time. As he spoke, the gathered seniors started discussing the specific personnel list. About 5 minutes or so later, it was still Song Mingsong who made the decision. Let's settle it like this. Apart from me and elder brother, there will be Hong Shui, the third brother and his wife, the fourth brother and his wife, and then add Lil Kai and Little Chi. Well, this operation should take place in about 3 months. Everyone should make preparations as much as possible. Although the golden armored giant beast is severely injured, it is after all a 4th rank life form. We must not be careless. Understood. Once the discussion ended, everyone gradually left. Song Kai stayed behind last once again. Of course, this time he didn't have any other matters. He was simply there to withdraw a sum of merit points from his grandfather. From the previous over 1 million intermediate rank soul stones, the lineage still owed him 2 million merit points. After his return this time, he was ready to go to the family merit hall to redeem a Thorned Flying Dragon enslavement certificate, naturally needing to prepare a sum of merit points beforehand. 2 minutes later, Song Kai walked out of his grandparents' courtyard. At this moment, his personal quantum communication bracelet showed an additional 500,000 family merit points. As for golden merit points, there was no need to worry about that. The obsidian ship armor he had exchanged before, and the purple relics he had obtained through the Ruins Market guest token in the past year were still in his hands, enough for him to exchange for about 30 golden merit points. Speaking of the Ruins Market guest token, it's worth mentioning that over the past year, the ones in the hands of Goblin Luke and the Centaur had already expired. However, both had renewed them with purple relics, so these two are still regulars at each Ruins Market trade. As for Zhou Ping, due to titanium crystal and body tempering paste, he doesn't need to use up a token every time he enters the Ruins Market. And those other alien species? They generally switch out every few months, as their hands do not hold sufficient wealth to renew the Ruins Market guest token. Time passed. The next day, in the afternoon, after telling his parents, Song Kai piloted the Kongchong to Dragon Spine Sacred Mountain. At the family merit hall, Song Kai handed over 2 purple main cannons and an energy shield through the exchange counter to the family, obtaining 13 golden merit points. The 2 main cannons accounted for 4 points each, and the energy shield with its decent attributes earned 5 points from the person in charge of exchanges at the merit hall. Aside from these 3, the other purple components had already been distributed by the first direct lineage, like the obsidian ship armor, which was acquired by my big uncle for my older brother Song Chi, also for 8 golden merit points. After all, exchanging them with the family would also cost 8 points, so might as well give the benefit to our own lineage. I scanned the personal information panel on the quantum communication bracelet. Ordinary merit points: 532,180 golden merit points, 35. With the addition of those 13 points just now, I now have a total of 35 golden merit points. With this, Song Kai was quite satisfied. Actually, if he wanted, he could have obtained about 4 more points because he still had more than 20 third-rank soul cores in his possession. For every 5 third-rank soul cores contributed to the family, one could gain an additional golden merit point. However, Song Kai didn't do so. Now, his spiritual force had already entered the second stage of the ordinary thought state, and to continue advancing rapidly, he would need to use these third-rank soul cores. On the 20th floor of the Merit Tower, in front of the floating land origin exchange counter, Song Kai first retrieved 10,000 strands of 0-rank floating land origin from between his brows and exchanged them for 1,000 strands of first-rank floating land origin. Then, he took out an additional 2,000 strands of first-rank floating land origin, and together with the previous 1,000 strands, exchanged them for 200 strands of second-rank floating land origin. As for the final exchange of 1,000 strands of second-rank floating land origin for 50 strands of third-rank floating land origin, Song Kai did not use up this annual quota. In the Ruins Market, the Spirit Mechanism Synthesis Platform could synthesize 100 strands of third-rank floating land origin from 1,000 strands of second rank, which was a much better deal by a full 2 times and not really worth it. Of course, the main reason was that over the past year, he had already synthesized 1,100 strands of third-rank floating land origin through the Spirit Mechanism synthesis platform, and he now had over 1,200 strands of third-rank floating land origin in his hands. He only needed to replace the Shadow Capture Antimatter Overstate engine later on. Then he could further enhance components like the Dark Matter Energy Shield Generator and Neutron Star Core Armor. After exchanging floating land origin, Song Kai went all the way to the 29th floor of the Merit Tower. Entering this floor, he immediately exchanged for a third-rank Thorned Flying Dragon enslavement certificate, which was his main reason for coming to the Merit Tower. Naturally, there was no reason to hesitate. What surprised him, though, was the efficiency of the family merit hall. It had only been 2 days since the Soul Spirit floating land was fully controlled by the first direct lineage, and now there were already enslavement certificates available for the Blackwater Zon snake and the two-headed chimera. Of course, although it was unexpected, he wasn't particularly interested. Compared to them, he preferred the Thorned Flying Dragon. With the deduction of 300,000 ordinary merit points plus 5 golden merit points, the ordinary merit points in Song Chi's personal account had been greatly reduced. He didn't rush to go above the 30th floor. Instead, he spent 30,000 ordinary merit points at another counter on this 29th floor to exchange for 3 vials of top-tier body tempering potion. Currently, his hands held quite a few 700-year-old and 900-year-old deep water clam pearls. Presumably, it wouldn't be long before the guidance technique breaks through to LV20. When that time comes, he would need these top-tier body tempering potions to work in conjunction with the 1,500-year-old deep water clam pearl, to make the most of the hard-earned deep water clam pearl. Well, it's not that he didn't want to exchange for more, but there was a limit of 3 per year. However, that would be enough for him for a short time. On the 30th floor of the Merit Tower, in front of the titanium crystal exchange counter, now that he had enough golden merit points, Song Kai did not hesitate and exchanged all of his remaining quota of 300 titanium crystals. For this type of strategic resource, the family's exchange restriction is a maximum of 500 crystals every 3 years. He had already exchanged twice more than a year ago, and now he only had the quota for the final 300 crystals left. After deducting another 3 golden merit points, there were only 27 golden merit points left in his account. After exchanging for titanium crystals, Song Kai began to wander above the 30th floor of the Merit Tower. However, to his disappointment, until he reached the 49th floor, he hadn't seen anything he wanted. It wasn't that there was nothing good between the 30th and 49th floors. On the contrary, there were plenty of great items. Orange main cannons, orange energy shields, purple engines, space solidification stones, green spirit fruits, and 3,000-year-old sea conch, etc. It's just that these weren't what Song Kai needed, at least not at the moment. In front of the gate that connects the 49th floor to the 50th in the Merit Tower, Song Kai took a step forward. This time, he wasn't stopped and directly reached above the 50th floor. To enter the 50th floor of the Merit Tower, one must possess over 20 golden merit points. Currently, his account held 27 golden merit points. As soon as he entered the 50th floor, the first thing Song Kai noticed was a stark difference from the 49 floors below, most notably in terms of the area of the floors. From the 1st to the 49th floor, each level had at least several hundred square meters, with the first 5 floors being nearly 10,000 square meters. In contrast, the 50th floor appeared to be, at most, around 100 square meters. However, Song Kai didn't mind this. After a brief moment of surprise, he began to look around the 50th floor. And with that look, his eyes instantly lit up, and the fiery passion in his gaze far exceeded that of before. Even though this floor also only traded in items for golden merit points, compared to the 30th to 49th floors, the 50th floor had many more desirable items, including some exceedingly rare resources. Orange Air Patrol Radar, Orange Soldier Figurine Tree Component, Orange Thruster, Orange Exterior Launcher, 4th Rank Void Crystal, Earth Attribute Law Sculpture, 10,000 Year Mooney Tree Sap, In just over 10 minutes, Song Kai saw many invaluable starship components and special resources, several of which were needed for the Kang Chong. For example, the orange quality thruster and exterior launcher. Both of these were components not found on the Kang Chong, or the quality was inferior to those needed. However, upon seeing their exorbitant prices, reaching up to several hundred golden merit points, he could only regretfully step back. Song Kai felt somewhat thoughtful. He had originally thought that with 27 golden merit points in his account, he had a small fortune, but now it seemed quite far from enough. After leaving the 50th floor, Song Kai continued towards the 51st floor. As he passed by various rare and dazzling items, he arrived at the 59th floor. At a counter on the right side of the 59th floor, Song Kai stopped walking, his gaze burning as he stared at the fire seed behind the counter. Name: Magma Core Fire Quality. Orange Item Description: a strand of orange fire seed nurtured over 50,000 years in the depths of magma volcanoes of a level 3 starry sea floating land with fire attributes, capable of evolving a blue quality seed of torch into purple quality. Exchange price: 130 golden merit points. Indeed, behind this counter was an orange quality fire source up rank. Although it was just plain orange, and not the kind that could evolve a purple fire seed into an orange one, it was nonetheless exceedingly rare and highly sought after. It was precisely what Song Kai desperately needed at the moment. His seed of torch was of blue quality, which set a limit for enhancing starship components to a maximum level of 39, an enormous restriction. If he could evolve his seed of torch into purple quality, the combat power of the Kang Chong would surely see a new surge. After all, according to the rank limitations of the torch warship itself, the enhancement levels of onboard components cannot exceed the ship's body by 2 great ranks. Now, with Kang Chong being of 2nd rank, the theoretical enhancement limit for components is 4th rank, or level 49. However, due to the limitations of the seed of torch, this enhancement limit is currently capped at level 39, which greatly impacts the overall combat power of the Kang Chong. P.S. Can you accept this patch now? Many readers said that the enhancement of starship components without any limits was too exaggerated, so I added this patch. If it's not acceptable, we can change it back in the future. As much as he coveted it, Song Kai could only look on. With a price of 130 golden merit points, it wasn't something he could currently afford unless he removed an orange component from Kang Chong. Forcing himself not to dwell on it, he continued to explore the other items on the 59th floor. Soon, Song Kai came across another item that deeply intrigued him. It was an orange quality starship component, an orange engine that the Kang Chong urgently needed. Light Energy Aggregation Engine LV0 Quality, Orange. Feature: Energy Supply Efficiency increased by 40%. Feature 2. Light Energy Aggregation Consumption, 8 per second, Spectral Energy Points. Energy Supply: 56 per second, Spectral Energy Points, Post-Overload Buffer, 30 minutes. Energy Pool: 8,000, can store 8,000 Spectral Energy Points. Up rank requirement: 10 strands of floating land origin, 0 rank, 1,000 energy points, 10 life cores, 0 rank, 10 void stones. Light Energy Aggregation: consumes 2,000 spectral energy points to aggregate the energy of the consumed spectral energy points, allowing the engine to enter a hyper-overload operating state, with energy supply efficiency and thrust increased by 100%, lasting for 10 minutes, with a buffer of 240 hours. Without a doubt, the attributes of this orange quality, light energy aggregation engine, far surpass the shadow capture antimatter overstate engine, currently installed on the Kang Chong. Not only in terms of energy supply efficiency, but also because it consumes less energy when operating, resulting in a significant net gain of energy per second. Moreover, this engine's exchange price was much lower than the Magma Core Fire, at only 90 golden merit points. Thus, if he could manage to scrounge up a bit more, there was a real chance of securing this engine before heading to Copper Mountain Continent. For instance, the segment of worm mother skin he still had, or the shadow capture antimatter overstate engine, which could be swapped out. These could be traded for golden merit points, in addition to the 27 points he currently had, offering a substantial opportunity. Thinking this, Song Chi's heart grew even more eager. It wasn't that he was disinterested in the magma core fire, but rather that the biggest shortfall of the Kang Chong at present was the engine component. Due to this reason, over the past year, apart from the newly installed water molecule isolation outer membrane component, the other parts of the Kang Chong had hardly changed. Why? Isn't it because the energy supply efficiency of the shadow capture antimatter overstate engine couldn't keep up? Because of this factor, the continued enhancement of Kang Chong's combat power faced significant obstacles. Dark matter energy shield generator, neutron star core armor, silver 3 generation superwave magic energy detection radar. These components, which clearly had considerable room for enhancement, were stuck at LV30 for over a year. You must know that over this year, Song Kai had already accumulated more than 10,000 strands of second-rank floating land origin and over 1,400 strands of third-rank floating land origin. Even though there were fewer titanium crystals, with just under 1,000, it was still more than enough to support over 20 third-rank enhancements. With a determined look in his eyes, Song Kai had already made a decision. In the following 3 months, he would accumulate as many golden merit points as possible, exerting his utmost effort to exchange for the light energy aggregation engine, before heading to Copper Mountain floating land. As for the golden armored giant beast he would face next, it was, after all, a 4th rank level existence. Even though the Bai family swore it had been seriously injured and its current strength was not even 1/100th of its peak, both families were not daring to be careless, let alone the naturally cautious Song Kai. Even a cornered rabbit will bite, not to mention a golden armored giant beast, a being with genetic bloodlines surpassing that of thorned flying dragons. If they really provoked it, who knew what could happen? Therefore, full preparations were necessary. And within these full preparations, the 2 most crucial ones were to enhance the neutron star core armor and dark matter energy shield generator, Kang Chong's main defense components, to their 3rd rank limit. Only by doing so could people feel slightly more at ease. Before reaching the 60th floor of the Merit Tower, Song Kai was once again stopped en route. To ascend to the 60th floor, one needed more than 100 golden merit points, which he could not accumulate in a short period. Before leaving, he also exchanged a zircon and a low-level energy crystal, which he had previously obtained from the Tuobu tribe's secret vault, with the family. In return, he earned 3 golden merit points. Zircon earned 1 point, and the low-level energy crystal earned 2 points. With this, his merit points went back up to 30, but the distance to 90 points was still significant, so he needed to keep striving. Outer space near Dragon Spine Continent, Song family's exclusive spatial gateway. After spending 1,000 merit points, Kang Chong successfully caught up with the next round of medium-range space transport. The destination of this transport was Thorny Star region, neighboring the Red River Star Domain, which is also where the family's flying dragon floating land, where thorned flying dragons were bred, was located. As a border star region of Dingai Star Domain, adjacent to the Red River Star Domain, Thorny Star region was not large, spanning only a few dozen light-years in diameter. Yet, despite its small size, this star region has been home to a family fleet of tens of thousands belonging to the Dingai Song family, known as the Thorny Defense Fleet, stationed there all year round. The Thorny Defense Fleet was led by a 4th-rank Zhulu warship as its flagship, with 10 cruisers, 100 escort ships, and beyond that, tens of thousands of standard micro-light nuclear-powered destroyers. Just from its configuration, the impressive combat power of this fleet was evident. The fundamental reason for stationing this fleet here, besides deterring the prying eyes of alien races from the Red River Star Domain, was to ensure the safety of the Flying Dragon floating land. Unlike the family's other artificially modified floating lands, the Flying Dragon floating land was not man-made but a rather rare 3rd-rank life floating land. Moreover, it wasn't just an ordinary third-rank life floating land. It contained high-level dragon origin energy, a third-rank life floating land. Ordinary third-rank life floating lands could not nurture dragon species, nor maintain their growth and evolution. According to messages passed down from the upper echelons of the family, a fifth-rank level dragon species creature had once perished on this floating land, and its essence eventually blended into the core of the flying dragon floating land. Through a long period of fusion and transformation, this floating land eventually developed dragon origin energy, giving birth to the thorned flying dragon, a species group with a notable bloodline. In the southern part of the Thorny Star region, not long after Kang Chong and other family warships flew out from the spatial gateway, they were intercepted by a small fleet. Thorny Defense Fleet Patrol, please present your personal identity information. You may proceed after verification is confirmed. As a message was broadcast from the escort ship at the forefront of the small fleet, the warships that had just emerged from the spatial stargate, including Song Chi's, came to a halt one after another before transmitting their respective information to the other party. The Thorny Star region has always been a border area adjacent to the alien race star domain, and it's never been a peaceful place. Otherwise, the family wouldn't specifically send a fleet to be stationed here. A strict patrol wasn't surprising. After verifying their personal information, Kang Chong was quickly allowed to pass, and then sped towards the near-flying dragon floating land. While controlling the Kang Chong, Song Kai also recalled the information about the Thorn Guard fleet in his mind. The Thorn Guard fleet belonged to a special fleet under the direct command of the family's War Affairs Hall, and it wasn't part of the family's regular external combat fleets. In simple terms, it was the local fleet of the Thorny Star region, only responsible for guarding the Thorny Star region and the Flying Dragon floating land. Duties like suppressing the floating lands and external warfare were not within its jurisdiction. Furthermore, it was said that the Thorn Guard fleet was now almost completely under the control of the family's third direct lineage. The current supreme commander of this guard fleet, the owner of the Zhulu flagship, was Song Shuangguang, one of the two fourth-rank elders from the third direct lineage. He was a peer of Elder Song Xuanfeng from the first direct lineage and was now also a member of the family's Council of Elders. As thoughts whirled, Kang Chong reached the airspace above a starry sea floating land with a diameter of nearly 8 million kilometers. Indeed, this floating land was the Flying Dragon floating land. However, when approaching the Flying Dragon floating land, what first attracted Song Chi's attention was not the floating land itself but the elliptical floating land shield above it, layered with grid patterns. As a level 3 life floating land, the core of the Flying Dragon floating land was capable of condensing this impressively defensive floating land shield. Besides, another point that caught Song Chi's attention was the gigantic war machinery built upon the floating land above. With an alloy track diameter exceeding 100,000 meters, a staggering number of warship berths, awe-inspiring fortress orbital cannons, and the continuously maintained circular nuclear energy shield. Yes, this war machinery built upon the Flying Dragon floating land, just like what he had seen on Guangyuan floating land, was indeed a floating fortress. And at one of the central berths of the fortress, a large warship over 3,000 meters in length was quietly docked. If his guess was correct, that should be the flagship of Elder Shuangguang. Shifting his gaze, directing his attention away from these two, Kang Chong quickly descended towards the floating land shield below. As he had already passed the inspection, there were no further obstructions. With the approach of several family warships, the floating land shield below astonishingly split open to create a kilometer-wide gap. Seeing this, the string of warships entered in single file. The Flying Dragon floating land, atop Tunglong Peak. This was the family's station on the Flying Dragon floating land. Inside the station's grand hall, a middle-aged third-rank torch ship captain inquired of Song Kai. "Do you need my assistance?" Hearing this, Song Kai quickly nodded. Although with the current combat power of Kang Chong, taking down a third-rank thorned flying dragon wasn't difficult, he certainly wouldn't refuse help if it was offered. Several hours later, in the midst of the Sunset Mountain Range, The booming of the artillery gradually ceased. With the suppression of a third-rank cruiser, the third-rank level Thorned Flying Dragon that had been targeted was soon seriously injured and fell into a coma, a moment when its resistance to psychic attacks was at its weakest. At the same time, the voice of the middle-aged man resounded from the cruiser above. "All right, you can attempt enslavement now.